My name is Billy, and I've always been someone who finds comfort in routine. My days begin at the same hour, always with a strong cup of black coffee, and I take pride in stepping into a workspace that's clean, ordered, and predictable. My girlfriend, Megan, operates at the opposite end of the spectrum. She's energized by unpredictability, booking trips on a whim, agreeing to spontaneous plans, and leaving a trail of clutter wherever she goes. For a long while, I told myself her impulsiveness was part of her charm, that it brought balance to my structured life. That Friday evening, Megan was darting through the apartment in a whirlwind of last-minute packing. She said she was heading to a wellness retreat with some friends. I leaned on the kitchen counter, sipping my coffee, watching her spin through the room like a hurricane. "Are you sure you've packed everything?" I asked. She flashed me a mischievous smile as she yanked a scarf from a chair. "If I forgot something, I'll buy it there. Don't stay up waiting for me, Billy. Who knows? Maybe you'll even miss me." I smiled faintly, kissed her cheek, and watched her disappear through the front door. The moment it shut behind her, silence filled the apartment, and with it came that familiar sense of peace I'd come to appreciate. Around 9 that night, I went into the living room to grab my laptop charger. That's when I saw it, a leather-bound journal lying open on the coffee table. I stopped in my tracks. I recognized it instantly. I'd given it to Megan as a gift. She'd always joked that journaling made her feel like someone's grandmother. Normally, I wouldn't have even glanced at the contents. I'm not the type to snoop. I've always respected her space. But this wasn't a closed journal stuffed in a drawer. It was open, with a pen resting along the center crease, like she'd been pulled away mid-sentence. And then I saw my name, written beside another, David. I stood frozen, laptop charger in hand, eyes locked on that page. Every instinct screamed at me to shut the book and walk away. But I didn't. I sat down, pulled the journal closer, and began to read. The handwriting was unmistakably hers. At first, it seemed harmless enough, mundane notes about the retreat, but that quickly gave way to something else, something deliberate, calculated. "Billy thinks I'm off with the girls. Perfect excuse to spend the weekend with David. He's been so patient. He hates pretending." I read those lines over and over again. David. The same David she once brushed off as just a friend, someone I was apparently being paranoid about. My stomach churned, but I kept flipping through the pages. The deeper I went, the more twisted it became. This wasn't just about cheating. Megan had a plan, a strategy. She had outlined everything. How I was the stepping stone until she and David were financially stable enough to cut ties. Soon as Billy hits his savings target, I'll push him to move the funds. He won't question it. He lives to take care of people. Half will cover our launch. David's name won't be on anything until the grant clears. Then we vanish, clean. I sat back, gripping the journal like it might slip through my fingers. She was talking about the money I'd been setting aside for years. $35,000, saved bit by bit, believing I was building something solid for our future. She called it deadweight capital. Her words, not mine. She mocked the condo I'd dreamed of us owning, laughed in writing at the idea of it. Said David promised her a studio loft with exposed brick and real opportunity. Then came the part that stung the most, pages about my family, my mother's illness. He melts every time I check on his mom. David says it's almost too easy. Oddly, I didn't feel rage, no tears, just a numbing stillness washing over me, the kind that comes when everything suddenly, painfully makes sense. She hadn't just lied, she'd engineered the entire betrayal. I picked up my phone, flattened the journal, and started taking pictures. Each page, every word. No longer just a painful discovery. This was evidence. I spent the rest of that night documenting everything. The journal wasn't a diary. It was a blueprint for how Megan planned to drain me financially and vanish without a trace. I photographed every entry, checked the images twice, and uploaded them to a private, encrypted cloud folder. Then I transferred the files to a secure USB drive. No errors. 2 backups. Once the documents were secure, I took a seat at the kitchen table and began drafting a list. There wasn't room for sentimentality. It had to be meticulous. Step 1. Finances. I logged into our joint accounts and canceled the shared credit card. After that, I redirected my direct deposit to a personal account and withdrew my pay from the shared one. Megan had been defaulting on her share of the utility bills for months. I wasn't going to leave another dollar vulnerable. Then came the apartment. Before sunrise, I sent a message to Pam, our landlord, short and to the point. I was officially terminating my half of the lease. If Megan wanted to stay, she'd need to qualify on her own income. By morning light, I had 3 bags spread across the floor, only the essentials: clothing, work laptop, backup drives, and a few books I couldn't let go of. The rest, furniture, decor, was staying behind. Around midday, I reached out to my buddy Lucas. No questions, no hesitation. He pulled up in his truck, glanced at me, and simply asked where the boxes were. We moved in silence, carrying everything down flight after flight until the last bag was loaded. That evening, I unlocked the door to a short-term rental I'd arranged online. A small 1-bedroom, quiet, nothing extravagant. I sat down on the bare floor, surrounded by my belongings. The quiet was stark, not soothing yet, but free of tension. Megan was still texting like nothing had changed. "Miss you already." Then a photo of wine. She still believed I was waiting for her back at the apartment. I flipped my phone face down on the floor. The dynamic had shifted. She came home a day earlier than planned. I knew the moment my phone lit up. 10 missed calls in under 60 minutes. Then the messages poured in. "Billy, where are you? Why is the apartment half empty? Where's your laptop? This isn't funny. Answer me." I didn't. Not right away. I wanted her to sit in the silence to see how she'd react when the usual rhythm was broken. That night, my former neighbor Mrs. Lang called. "Your girlfriend's in the hallway yelling your name," she said softly. "She looks completely unhinged." I thanked her, ended the call, and finally picked up when Megan rang again. "Billy!" she yelled the moment the line connected. "What the hell is this? Did you seriously just leave?" Calm, controlled. "I moved out." "What do you mean you moved out?" she snapped. "You can't just do that. This is our place. You were supposed to pick me up from the station today. You'll have to requalify for the lease on your own," I said plainly. "I already let Pam know." There was a pause. Then her voice sharpened. "You went through my journal, didn't you?" I didn't flinch. "Yes." The tone in her voice shifted fast, disbelief laced with rage. "That's a complete violation of privacy. Do you even grasp how twisted that is? I understand you've been sleeping with David and planned to drain my savings for your art studio. I saw where you mocked my condo fund. I read how you pretended to be concerned about my mom just to look like a good partner." She went quiet, then let out a bitter laugh. "You seriously believe any of that was real? Billy, it's journaling, it's venting, it's made up, I dramatize. It's just for me. I've got photos of every page, dates, details that line up with your weekend retreats. Fantasies don't leave behind receipts, Megan." Her voice dropped. "Delete them. Please, if you ever loved me." "This isn't about love anymore," I replied, cold and flat. "Money's separated. Lease is done. I left your belongings untouched. That's the end of it." She screamed my name as I ended the call. For the first time in years, the quiet that followed felt like peace. The next day, the retaliation began. Megan bombarded me with texts, some apologetic, some threatening. Then her father, Thomas, got involved. "Billy," he said over the phone, his tone hard and formal. "Megan told me you walked out on her without warning. I don't know what kind of drama you're trying to stir up, but if this is some childish misunderstanding, you need to grow up and fix it. No misunderstanding, I replied. I read her journal. I know what she was planning to do with my savings. There was silence on the line. Then, that's private writing. You don't destroy a relationship over something scribbled in a notebook. She shouldn't have drawn up a business plan full of timelines and dollar figures, I replied. By Tuesday, an envelope arrived at my sublet, official letterhead, dense with legal phrasing, words like abandonment, illegal possession, emotional distress. They demanded I return joint property and offer compensation, or they'd pursue legal action. I didn't budge. Everything I'd taken was mine. I had the receipts to prove it. The rest of the apartment remained untouched. Filled with furniture and decor Megan had pressured me into buying. If she wanted those, she could have them. But she wasn't seeing another cent from me. That night, I clicked open a folder on my laptop titled Evidence. Hundreds of photos, dozens of scans, pages of her meticulously kept notes, outlining in detail how I was the stepping stone to David's bright future. That journal wasn't just a defense anymore. It was leverage. Megan's entire setup relied on external funding, grants, gallery sponsors, investors. Without them, her operation would crumble. So I spent 2 nights assembling a packet, screenshots of the diary entries, carefully arranged in order, accompanied by a clean, professional cover letter. No accusations, no emotion, just the facts. Then I sent it, by courier with signature confirmation, to Harriet, the gallery sponsor named in the journal, and to Janine, a grant officer Megan had mentioned. I paid extra for personal delivery. They'd know exactly what they were supporting. Let Megan and David go online and call me possessive or vindictive. None of that mattered. I wasn't going to argue in the apartment. I was cutting off their funding, clean and surgical. The consequences came quicker than I'd anticipated. 3 days after the delivery was confirmed, Megan's social media took a drastic turn. The upbeat posts about her creative journey vanished. In their place were cryptic comments about betrayal and manipulation. David chimed in, calling her strong and brave. It was the type of posturing you do when the foundation is starting to shake. That Monday, Harriet's office made an announcement. Megan's upcoming showcase was postponed indefinitely. No reasons given, just canceled. That afternoon, I received a discreet email from Harriet herself. Thank you for sharing this. We can no longer support their proposal. By Wednesday, Janine from the grants office sent a formal request to Megan and David asking for clarification about inconsistencies in their application, which was bureaucratic for, you lied, and we noticed. David folded first. The diary had painted him as daring and committed, but the texts that slipped through told another story. One of them read, "We're finished. They're pulling everything. I can't be part of this anymore." And just like that, he disappeared. At the same time, Pam, the property manager, called to confirm the lease termination. Megan had tried negotiating with her, but Pam held her ground. Megan had 30 days to either qualify for the lease solo or vacate. The utilities were overdue too. Then Megan started calling me. First with rage, "You've destroyed everything." Then desperation. "We can make this right, Billy. Just delete the photos. We can start fresh." I didn't reply, not once. But I saved everything. Screenshots of her posts, audio recordings of her voicemails, every last message. It wasn't paranoia. It was protocol. By week's end, her entire plan had unraveled. The studio dream was dead. The gallery had cut ties. The man she'd gambled everything for had vanished. Her little empire, built off my back, was in ruins, and I hadn't raised my voice once. By the second week, her calls sounded different. No more shouting, just sobs. "Billy, please. I don't know what to do. I can't afford the rent alone. Pam says I'll be locked out soon. You can't just leave me like this." I let the silence sit before finally replying, "You made this bed. She sniffled through the receiver. "You don't understand. Adrian's gone. My parents are livid, and I have no strategy in place. Nothing. I just want this reversed. Please." I said to keep it simple. Instead, she made a proposition. "Cover what you owe me. Your half of the rent, utilities, and the movers I had to hire to get my stuff out. It's just over $3,000. Once that's settled, we're done." Her voice was cold again, tinged with fury. "You're seriously charging me? This is insane." "It's not a charge," I said calmly. "It's closure. You pay your share and we walk away. Clean break." She ended the call. A week later, a cashier's check showed up in the mailbox of the apartment I was subletting. The amount matched exactly. The return address was her parents' place. No letter, no message. I cashed it that same day and let the silence between us settle like dust. 2 days after that, I got another call. This time it was Thomas. His voice sounded older, worn down. "Billy?" he asked, as if the name barely made it out of his throat. "The lawyer. That was a mistake. Megan pushed for it. I should have stopped it." I didn't say anything. He cleared his throat. "I need to ask you something. Was any of it ever real? Did she really plan to manipulate you like that? Or is this just some story you built in your head?" I told him everything, plainly and without emotion. How she had belittled the savings I'd built for a condo. How she drafted entire dialogues to convince me to move the money. How she laughed behind my back about gifts I thought were meaningful. I didn't raise my voice or exaggerate. I laid it out like reading a report. There was a long pause, then a sigh, deep and exhausted. "She says none of it happened. Claims you imagined it all. Said the diary was just fiction, then destroyed it." He paused. "But people don't call movers and lawyers over a misunderstanding." "Exactly," I said. "Thanks for telling me," he said quietly. Then he hung up. I sat there for a while, looking at the empty envelope the check had come in. This wasn't a win. It was just an account finally settled. By the time my lease ended, Megan had already moved out. Her friend Pam sent me a short message to confirm the keys had been returned. That part of my life was over. I didn't dwell on it. Instead, I moved forward. I signed papers for a condo I'd been eyeing for months. It wasn't flashy. 2 bedrooms, a small balcony, beige paint. The kind of place Megan used to mock as lifeless. But the title was in my name, and every cent spent on it came from my own account. That meant something. Far more than the upscale loft she used to dream about with David. Work improved too. After a systems audit I handled, my manager pulled me into his office. "Billy, this is exceptional," he said, sliding a report across his desk. "You're always thinking ahead. I'm promoting you. More responsibility and a raise." That night I stood alone in my new place, boxes still unopened, leaning into the silence. But this silence didn't feel empty. It felt like freedom. A week later, I saw Megan again, just briefly, through the window of a downtown cafe. She was walking by with her head down, eyes locked on her phone. No spark, no fire, just someone dragging through the day. She didn't notice me. I didn't signal her. I thought I'd feel something, anger, maybe sorrow. But there was only stillness. The quiet knowing that a lie, once starved, eventually dies. While unpacking the last of my things, I found something I hadn't seen in years. A framed star map I'd once given her, commemorating the night we met. According to her diary, before she destroyed it, she'd hidden it deep in the closet, laughing about it with David. I almost threw it away. Instead, I swapped out the print with something new. A simple white background, bold black letters. "The truth doesn't destroy you. It takes away what was never real." I hung it beside the front door. Now, every time I leave or come home, it's there, watching, reminding. Megan spun a fantasy and tried to pull me into it, but I walked away, with my savings, my name, and my clarity intact. My life is still ordered, still structured, But now, it's truthful. And after years of living inside someone else's illusion, that truth feels like the greatest win of all.